This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
It's the Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast.
We're old school, right? We wash our own dirty laundry.
The name on the front is a hell of a lot more important than the one on the back.
I refuse to be judged by a grown man wearing a hockey jersey.
Game on! Game on!
We are back with another episode of the Dirty Laundry Game-Worn Hockey Podcast, episode number 94. Paul Rank, Wade Hampton with us tonight. In the background, because we may yell and scream and make fun of it a bit, the Dallas and Oilers game, and whoo, boy, did that start out ugly. Ottinger was yanked very quickly, and then right after that, of course, Dallas scores. At the time of this recording, they are almost halfway through the second period. Oilers are up 3-1, so we'll see that. And Florida moves on the east side, so it's going to be interesting. But my God, the Stanley Cup Finals are here real quick. I cannot believe that. Paul, how are we doing this evening?
Doing great. Just been nice, relaxing week. Nothing too stressful, and happy to be back for another episode.
And Wade, how about yourself?
Good. Everything's well. Always good. Good week. Ready to tape a fun episode and then spend some quality time with you and friends tomorrow and go from there.
Yep, we'll get into some of that here in a minute. The drink this evening is one that honestly will be difficult for most people to get. And yep, we will get to Paul and his special cup here in just a second. I had actually a friend of mine was in Japan and brought me back a bottle of Okinawa Island Blue Rice Whiskey, and it is their subtropical blend. I just opened it. I have not had any yet, but it is in my old fashioned tonight. Wow, that's definitely a different flavor. But that's the first time I've ever had rice whiskey before, so that is definitely an excellent taste. But if you have any friends that are traveling to Japan or you're going, pick that up. The guy said it was about $30-some a bottle, and it rates high. It is very good. And our friend and sponsor Mitch with the Drink Your Face Off line of barware and clothing. I have a puck, and in the camera there by Paul, he has some special cups, so I bet you can reach out to Mitch and get those. Those are fancy metal. Are they aluminum, or what are they made out of? I'm assuming aluminum or steel.
I think they're aluminum. I'm not 100% certain.
Adamantium.
They're light. What was that, Wade?
It's adamantium.
And Wolverine is really pissed now. But no, those are super sharp. I think he had put a few pictures out with those, and they look really cool. So if you want some of those as well, reach out. I know Mitch loves spreading that stuff around. I can't wait to. Yes, also the Masked Men of Teal, and I love that logo.
I do too.
Even though it's all teal around it, I do love the goalie logo. So reach out to Mitch for any of that. We always appreciate his support, and we're talking before the show. We are trying to get him on soon, but he just needs to not work so damn much. The problems with being a self-made billionaire or whatever. So don't forget to go join forums.dirtylaundry.com or dirtylaundryhockey.com. Yes. I always screw that up. Sorry. We are now at 60 members, and if you're not seeing notifications or having problems, make sure you have acknowledged the email that'll come back in your mailbox to confirm your account. Lots of good posts out there. I actually threw one out there tonight that we'll read the responses of next week. Our friend Rory from New Zealand reached out after the last show, wanted to let us know that he has purchased multiple things from matchwornshirts.com and has had great luck with them in both soccer shirts and other things. The only slight issue, and it may not mean as much for us, but it did for him, is depending on what you were buying, it may ship from different places, so shipping prices will vary. Auction-wise, there's really not much out there. I think some more teams may be ramping up stuff, but I have not seen much at all. Equipment sales. You heard us talk last week about the Blues, and we'll mention that more here in a minute. But a couple other teams have put their stuff out, and thank you for people that see those posts and send them to me. I got the Flames one sent to me today. I had seen it and made note of it, but I appreciate any of the listeners that do see those, so please continue to send them. The Wild are doing theirs on June 10th and 11th. The 10th is for season ticket holders, and the 11th will be the public. The Flames, that's a very popular one every year. 8 to 9:30 on June the 14th for season ticket holders, and 9:30 to 1 for the public. The Blues will be starting tomorrow, 5 to 8 p.m. for season ticket holders, and then on Saturday, 10 to 3 for the general public. Wade and I will both be down there. We will actually be recording some version of a show from down there as well. I have a bunch of portable recording equipment, so I was finishing testing that tonight. It's all good to go, so I will have that down there, and we will interview people in line, have all kinds of good time with that. And Wade doesn't it to me, it sounds bad. It feels like Christmas morning type of thing, or even going to bed tonight. You're so excited, and I know with them not having game jerseys, it's less so for you, but it's just I always look forward to the hanging out, and that's one of the fun parts.
It's funny is, I mean, like I go down there with no anticipation of like getting stuff. I know last year I've got a puppy locked up right now because he's being bad. Sorry.
You're good.
So you hear him whining in the back. But no, I go down with the anticipation of seeing everyone more or less, you know. I'm excited about that. And then I'm going to pick up some fun stuff. I mean, the no jersey thing does suck, but I also kind of enjoy the fact that, it's less about that and more about the friendships.
Hey, who scored a goal?
Sorry. Dallas scored.
No, I love
Paul's
it.
Light went off. So
yeah, Paul now in the background for you just listening to the audio has added a goal light behind and siren behind him, so it's nice when that I love technology where you can set that stuff off remotely, and
that's awesome.
I need one for my office at work just to drive people crazy.
We'll get back to the equipment sale real quick, but it's one of the best Internet of Things devices to come out. Budweiser Canada makes some. I got this one probably 5-6 years ago.
Now, are those still available to get?
I have no idea.
I'll have to dig around and find out, because they were super popular for a while, and I've seen them show up on eBay and other places, and they usually seem to go for stupid money.
I'm on eBay right now, and it looks like there's one for $529.
Oh my!
Wow.
Yeah, there's a couple cheaper options. Who knows? There may be not one less cheaper option, because I may get one tonight. So.
Before the show's over, Wade will have bought one.
Yeah, no shit.
I have a version 3, and I think I paid like $150 for it new. They also make gold cups, which have the light in the bottom of the cup. And
nice.
I don't know if those are available.
I see those as well. Paul, we'll talk after the show.
Sounds good.
help Wade find one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
another thing I don't need. No, another thing I don't need, but
right. But no, so it'll be a good time. We even plan on interviewing some people in line, especially as we get people that don't know us. That'll be more fun. But talking and then counting down, and as when the Blues media releases the video of all the stuff out there ahead of time, we can pick that apart. And it's a lot of fun, and we will definitely talk about it. Say in the during the sales show, and then wrap it up a little bit next Thursday. So
they did drop a couple pictures today. A couple I don't know if they're. I couldn't tell. I
thought they were last year's photos, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I thought so too. I'm not sure. I'm excited. Back to it. Like, honestly, it's the camaraderie and the friendship. Like, I've already gotten a number of messages from people who are, excited to say hi. There's a couple friends who I haven't seen in a while who are coming, friends of ours. So I'm excited about that. And then really, like you said, it's the excitement of going in. For me, not getting jerseys is kind of okay. Because, gosh knows we get enough of them everywhere else. And the Blues have made them accessible, so it's not like I'm hurting for anything. But,
right. None of us are.
No, getting nameplates is fun. Like, that's actually been the thing I've turned this into, that I enjoy getting a pile of nameplates.
We'll be watching out for some for Paul for his
Yeah, there's
Biaka
always
Batuka collection. And
that. My favorite thing with that is there's usually a couple people that will just randomly I like to send out a mail day to people of just a nameplate that I think they may like.
sure.
You know,
And I'll grab some for the price. They usually sell pretty cheap. I'm gonna start buying them now that I've got an official office door at work. I'm just starting to run them down my office door.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, yeah. No, and I'm excited. It's nice to see our friends with the Blues, and again, the apparel thing is fun. I usually end up picking up. God knows if you've ever met me in person, I have 8,000 Blues T-shirts, so I'll probably add to that. I've got Blues quarter zips that I love. I'll grab a couple of those. McDavid just scored on a breakaway.
Oh,
sorry.
wow.
Okay.
No, you're good.
So, I get distracted easily. Yeah, there it goes.
There we go.
And there's the goal.
I beat it. I beat the light. But no, I mean, so it's exciting to see everybody. And then, like you said, doing the show, I'm really excited about doing that because I think that's going to be really kind of fun. Because like last year, we were talking about people we wanted to pull on that maybe aren't knowledgeable about what we do. But
Yeah, or even the one person, and we've talked about it before, the person we met who plays for the Blues Warriors hockey team, the military veterans that play, and these Warrior teams are all over the country. Yeah. But he was there getting gear and stuff. I'd love to talk to him because why he's playing just all of that stuff. It's so cool. It doesn't have to be collectors. So I think it'll definitely be a fun time, and we'll see how people react when we put a microphone in their face.
Yeah. Maybe we'll get one of the homeless guys.
At least we're not waiting overnight. So that's we're recording this now at about 20 minutes to 9 Central Time. I'm not driving down when we're done recording to get in line that early. It will be tomorrow morning.
I don't miss that. I can honestly say, because like you're right. Because like a couple of years ago, right now we would be getting packed up to prepare to go down there at midnight or 1, and sleeping outside that is not something I would advise, nor something I really am glad I don't have to do anymore.
No, but I've already got my cooler sitting off to the side. I have my chairs in my car, all that stuff. And I know a lot of people, I was telling people at work, they're making fun of me about it. It's like, really, you do that? I'm like, you have no idea. And I'm like, other cities do the same thing.
Yeah, my coworkers, where I work now, we're all kidding around because they said, "Oh, what time's it at?" And I'm like, "Well, the doors open at 5." And they said, "What time are you going down there?" I'm like, "Well, a lot earlier than 5." And they're like, "Well, what do you do?" And I'm like, "Well, I hang out with my friends." And they're like, "So you guys like sit outside the building for a number of hours?" And I go, "Yeah, it's great. It's like something I look forward to every year." And they're like, "Yeah, cool, Wade."
We'll make sure we send them pictures from there.
Yeah.
So,
but it's a blast. I look forward to it every year. So
cannot wait, and I'll see you in person tomorrow for that.
Yeah. I can't wait to see what shirt you wear.
I'll see what I can come up with. I may wear the Dirty Laundry one, just because that sticks out, being bright red and the logos all over it. That's usually about the only time I break that out, or at the expos. So I'm thinking
about going no shirt. So I mean, like, we're really gonna. I mean, it's gonna be awesome.
Last week, during the show, we mentioned what you do in the off season. Threw that out as a question, and we got some good responses online. I'll go over those really quick. Mitch, of course, he's the first one to share and post and everything. He posted, "To answer your question, I run a sheet metal company and have a real job to purchase or trade for other items. Been working on inventory for 25 years. Nicky Lau, a friend from up north, he has been very supportive of the show. Yes, we're still trying to get him on. He said, in the quote off season, in terms of jerseys, everything gets put back on the Z-Rack. Jerseys I've worn from beginning of the season, organized by color year. I also make an effort to photo match what I purchased for the year. I also collect physical media, DVDs, Blu-rays, so I'm occupied with that. I also collect merch from a Korean K-pop band called Girls' Generation." And he said, "Happy hunting." Skating with Cider, one of our past guests. "There's no off-season for me. I'm always on the lookout for new items to buy and waiting for people to post them for sale. That being said, it's usually slower during the off-season with fewer items available." I see that yes and no, because some people they kind of go through, and especially I think you see it come or post trade deadline and free agent time, when you start seeing more of that stuff moving. I've seen a lot. I even moved some myself in the last 24 hours, but I wanted some extra spending money for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that's why I threw a few things out there, and thank you to the buyers. I've already was able to get stuff shipped out, so thank you for all of that. Our friend Roberto Rossi. I play hockey year round. I've been playing for almost 30 years. Collecting doesn't really stop. Being pretty picky with my collection, though, I'm also slowly cataloging everything on Flickr and Instagram. And that is, I think, what a lot of people do too, is they'll either update their catalogs, start one if you haven't. Mine, I need to pretty much start from scratch and redo. But it is a lot of inventorying, a lot of cleanup, reorganizing.
Yeah.
But thank you for everybody that reached out and commented on that. And we put a post in the forums for this week's question, as well as you can answer it on our Facebook page or the main collectors group page. We'll get into that topic here in just a second. But no, thank you all for reaching out on that.
Paul, what about you? What's your off season?
Basically catching up on everything, and that's not really an off season. That's like a multi-year behind stuff. Photographing jerseys, getting them up on Flickr, getting them into my database, even just finding them where they're at. It's for me, it's year round.
Yeah.
And the big difference is we're not watching hockey, or there's not that much during the summer to
There's
watch.
other distractions, but yeah, just hockey's not it.
Yeah.
But we don't have the Olympics this summer. We don't have the World Cup this summer. So it's well, actually, I take that back. We do have the FIFA Club World Cup, which you probably haven't even heard of yet, which is taking place in the U.S. and club teams from around the world. It's I think there's 64 clubs playing it. I'm going to be in L.A. later this month. Inter Milan has a game there, and I think PSG has a game there also at the Rose Bowl. So it's be entertaining, but I would just keep catching up on things.
And what about you, Wade?
I mean, it's hard to say. I think it's hard to think of an off season at this point. For me, because I think I obviously collect year round, and I don't think that stops. The one thing I've discovered is when hockey's over, and I hate to say this, I think there's usually some deals to be had if you do stay sharp. Because I think that the off season sometimes tends to be a time when lesser collectors, being like more casual collectors, and people that have maybe picked up stuff and don't really have a connection to it as much, or aren't as hobbyist motivated, that stuff pops up this time of year, like when the hockey season comes over. I've noticed that over the years, where I find the off season to be a good time to snag stuff. It is a good time to catch up on cleaning up when your team isn't playing and there's not their regular whatever. But realistically, with the way the auctions fall, and then for the Blues with Rinkside, when that starts going, there really isn't an off season, But I have discovered it is a great time to pick up stuff. But I mean, think of it like this: like we're rolling into June, and we're going to roll into summer sales, right? And more summer sales, and then you've got the Migrate show, and if you're a sports collector, you got the National and all that kind of stuff. So you got Migrate in the off season, and then you've got summer sales, and there's still going to be some auctions that pop up for different teams. So then you're July, and then you're August, and then you're quickly approaching, camp starting back up, hockey starting back up. There isn't much of an off season anymore, I guess, is my thing. And that's kind of what I heard from other collectors when we posted it. Most of the responses were like, haha, I don't really get an off season. And I kind of agree. But I can see where it is a good time to take a break and get caught up on stuff. I just started a Flickr I just started a Flickr. And God knows I've got miles to go to get that caught back up. And I don't know I haven't really decided what direction I want to go with it. I think that's been fun for me as far as something new in the hobby. Like the Flickr, I haven't decided if I want to make it like just my like PC keeper, always keeper stuff, like the really like my Ryan O'Reilly collection or my Brett Halls and like Stanley Cup final stuff from the Blues and really rare specialty stuff and vintage stuff. I think that's the direction I want to take it, where it's that stuff and not just like my everyday 20, 23, 24 gamers, right? So that's actually been something I've been pretty excited about, something kind of fresh and a new thing to play with. It's like a new toy. So,
Yeah.
and learning how to navigate it.
And I think some of that, like doing Flickr and other things, is just because, like you go to a ton of games during the season because you're right there. Paul, you're the same way. So a lot of your nights between, especially with you, Paul, between both San Jose and the Barracuda, you've got a ton of time. So now, yes, you have some of that downtime. Wade, you're at a lot of games. I don't go as many, but between the three of us doing this and other things, and I playing during the week, it's just things definitely at least dial it back some where you can play catch up or reorg or however you want to do. But it really truly does never stop.
No, I agree, and the podcast definitely keeps us involved. And like I said, I'm amazed at, and I actually, it's great for me as a kind of a bigger, big collecting guy. The off season is great because there are a lot of times that stuff kind of pops up, or I get offered stuff, or people have lost interest a little bit. It seems like the off season is a great time for people to lose interest. So that's not a bad thing for me. I hate to say that, like, kind of giggle about it, but Doc, you'll agree, and I'm sure Paul, same thing.
I think we all see it.
Yeah, it's amazing that those are the times. A lot of times you get the you get the more casual collectors. That's when you start seeing stuff pop up on your Facebook Marketplace, and maybe something that drops on eBay or on a couple of the pages.
Well, and even like it seems like the Vegas Golden Knights specifically, because I've seen their page a few different times, continue to put up preseason guys or different things, and other teams, I think, doing some of that, cleaning up their stuff that aren't going to be in their equipment sales and putting them in their online stores. So you may be able to snag, if you want just particular team's jersey, at a cheaper price because everybody's just trying to get stuff out the door.
A lot of fun times.
Yes.
So, it was a good question. I think it's a fun topic. I liked that people responded to it.
And I think we'll try and do that going forward, is throw out a question, different things. Like I said, what we'll talk about here in just a minute. I did put in both the forums, and it'll be in the post when we put the podcast out too. So I'll be curious what people's thoughts are on those, and we'll continue to read them because I think it's fun to be able to keep people connected, keep the listeners connected, and share their thoughts on it. So yesterday, and I talked about this team because I went up when they unveiled the name and all this different stuff, and made it up to a couple games, and decided, you know what, I'm going to pick up a first season Bloomington Bison jersey. They run all their stuff through Dash. Their owners are also the owners of the Indy Fuel, so the Indy Fuel do their stuff through Dash as well. They've been putting up 4 to 5 jerseys at a time, usually about once a week. Once their previous ones close, they wait a day, and then they throw another batch out there. They've done a couple, some helmets. They did a handful of sticks. They even did cut up nets and did some other things, and did them like mini shadow boxes. And I think those are actually still available for sale. But you know what? First year, I'll pick them up. And it's they only selling the whites. I didn't get to confirm yesterday when I was in their office if the players took their darks. But the ECHL, and I believe, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong on this, the AHL switch their colors halfway through the year. I know East Coast does, but does AHL swap like that too?
Not the AHL does not. At least not anymore.
They should.
Yeah, that's actually that's kind of neat.
But the East Coast switched in January, so the whites were actually home the rest of the year.
You get some variation in the AHL with all the specialty jerseys. I guess with the ECHL too. You get that. So, sometimes a team will play on their home jersey on the road just to make that work better. But I would love to see that, because the CUDA jerseys, I really love the steel and the black jerseys. The white ones look pretty good, but we don't, just don't see them as often.
Mm-hmm.
So.
So I did watch the auction this week and ended up bidding on a Lou Philippe Denis inaugural season jersey. He came in, was traded from, I remember what team he came from, but in his first 18 games with the team, had 10 points. So figured I'd pick up somebody a little bit. I was watching Ivan Barbashev's brother, who also plays for the team, but ended up getting outbid on that one, Maxim Barbashev. The prices all were reasonable, 3 to 500, at least in the ones that I had kind of paid attention to. And it is a nice looking jersey. I was impressed when I got it in front of me. The thing I didn't like, and again, these will all be things that I'll actually email to them after the fact. I just didn't have time to do it. Was they didn't do any kind of LOA with them when I picked them up. And even in the pictures online is 2 very small pictures. You can't zoom in. You can't look for wear or anything. It's you're guessing. The only additional close-up picture they put is they signed all the jerseys on the back. They showed the autograph, but there's no way in Dash to make the images bigger or anything to kind of, if you're looking for one that's really beat up, just isn't it. These are the AK. So they've got the logo, the AK logo above the Bison, and then again, on the back of the neck. So went up to their offices, picked it up. Was very nice to see in person. The coloring of that, the logo looks really sharp in person. Having jerseys, good material. But again, no certificates from the team. And the other thing, and I immediately, when I got my car unchecked, no set stamps. Yeah. I believe, and I need to confirm with them, but of course, like you said, Paul, the East Coast wears a lot of, same with the AHL, a lot of specialty jerseys. So they crank through a lot of different things, but this is the inaugural season for the Bison. There's even no inaugural patch or anything on the jersey, which I also kind of would have liked to seen. But I believe, to my knowledge, they only wore one set the entire season. So one sets of, they had a third jersey as well, but their main jerseys 3 minus the specialty jerseys, and I think that's all they wore all year. But no set stamps in them either. My problem with that being is nobody's going to fake this player or things like that. But going forward, after you've had if this team is supposed to be guaranteed 5 years. That's the deal that the ownership signed with Bloomington and the arena and everything else. So even call it 5 years from now, if they've not tweaked anything on the jerseys at all, how the hell do you know, other than looking up if the player's only here this year, what the year the jersey is? Why not even just put a basic set stamp in there of just the year? It doesn't even have to, if they're only wearing one set, I don't need a set number, but at least put a little patch with the year inside. It doesn't have to be anything grand, but just something.
Have the equipment manager sign the fight strap, especially if you had the players sign the jerseys. Right? Have him handwrite on there, inaugural season, 2024, 25, and sign them. I mean, honestly, Springfield has, I think it's not the equipment manager does it. It's one of their, staff members does it. A lady, who's worked there for a long time. She signs the tags on those jerseys now. In some cases when they don't have set tags.
And right? I don't have much other than the Bison. I don't really have any current East Coast experience. I know you're waiting on a jersey from the Everblades, Wade. I'll be curious to see if there's any kind of inside tagging there.
Yeah, it's just, again, we talk about it with all these teams. It's like, be consistent, but if you can't be consistent with a set tag, then at least have some kind of backup. Do something, right? Especially because here I don't know that much about the jerseys that they're wearing, but then the question becomes, are the same game weight jerseys available in their team store, and can they be customized to the same specifications as the game jerseys? Because like what you said, then in a couple years down the road, you can't tell the difference between the gamers and the store-bought ones that were made up at the same time with the same stuff, right? So shame on teams for not being
and I get it, and I'll reach out to our buddy with the the Cyclones
Yeah.
to see if he knows if any teams do, and if no teams really do it, why not? And part of it may be a staffing thing. I understand at the East Coast level, especially the East Coast level, the money's tight and all of that stuff. You're doing 87 jobs, and nobody gives two craps at the end of the day about who's buying the jerseys. And I know a lot of them go to the diehard fans and stuff, and that's awesome. I wanted to say, I just wanted to get inaugural season one because they're nice looking jerseys. The team's new. It's nice to watch them, but I don't think a lot of the fans probably care, or if they're not collectors outside of that particular team, wherever it is, they may not know this kind of documentation exists. Paul, does the Barracuda set tag theirs at all?
Well, let's step back to ECHL first before I get into the Barracuda, because there's a lot to say about both. You go back far enough, and Migray had the ECHL contract.
Yes, you're right.
And that was the Bulls' first year out of a year and a half. And on those jerseys, they had a Migray tag, not a tag, Migray logo sewn in on the hem. But
that was the outside hem, correct?
Outside hem, yes.
Okay.
And I think the AHL did that also. But they did come with LOAs from Migray, both ECHL and AHL. But they did not. There was no indication of anything within the jersey to tie that jersey to the LOA, other than the player and the size. Now, one thing which surprises me about your case is that there's not an inaugural year patch or something like that on it. I know the Bulls didn't do that either. They had different patches both years, so you can, even if you didn't have the Migray patch on the hem, you could tell that it was a different year. Yep, just like what
Wade's got one for those listening on audio. Yeah, it's a Migray group spelled the right way patch on the outside of the back hem of the jersey.
And these are both ECHL jerseys. This is our Reading Royals, and this is a
Salmon.
Yeah, both sharp looking jerseys too.
Yeah, very cool. And I also have a couple AHL era. Peoria jerseys that do have the same thing.
And some of the Peoria jerseys, and we'll get into more of the AHL in a second, but some of the AHL Peoria jerseys did have set stamps depending on the year. But yeah, with going back to Bloomington and the East Coast, there's nothing. There is not even advertising patches on it where you could say, okay, this first year, this company was a sponsor. Year two, it was somebody else. There's no distinction, period, to know if it was to leave my hands, if something happened to me. There's no documentation backing this up at all. And I'm just curious if East Coast collectors, especially, if that frustrates them on it, if there's any teams they collect.
You know, I've always accepted it as that's the way it is.
Yeah.
So it's it's unfortunate. It would be nice to have, some sort of tagging it. But, the college teams don't have set stamps. Occasionally, I think Ohio State added some for a few years. The only Michigan tagging that I recall was a stamp inside the crest for one of the Mays jerseys, which they wore half a year because the Michigan logo was too small. It's that they ended up getting two different sets of script Mays that year. But coming from collecting college more than NHL or other ones, I've just accepted it. And
sure,
I've actually did some effort on Opert to document 10 years of Michigan jerseys and exactly how they differed each year. Sometimes it's pretty obvious. I mean, they'll change the style completely, but other ones it was you had to actually look inside and see the backing color on the crest to see a difference, or how the stitching was done on the neck. One year it was horizontal, the next year it was vertical, and it was exactly the same jersey besides that, and that's the only way you could tell the two.
And again, those are the appreciated things that this hobby should be grateful for, is you documenting those. guys, I mean, all the different teams, we've gone on this at length before, all the documenting people are doing to help remember things that aren't normal, or again, because they're not set tagged, or we don't know, we know this stuff can be forgotten down the road, but if at least you've thrown it out there somewhere, that it could hopefully be found by the archaeologists 200 years from now to go, oh, that's a 2003, 2004, whatever. And it may be, some people may think that I'm whining or complaining about this, but it's just, I guess maybe as NHL collectors, we've become spoiled in that, is getting LOAs and set tags and tracking data for how long the jerseys were worn and all this different stuff. And I get, the more you go down the league level, you have less personnel, you have less money to do these things, but it's to a point, it even could be a little bit of a sales thing, or a heck, sell it if you want to do those, if teams want to do that, do it as, sell it with an advertising thing, put underneath the set tag sponsored by whoever, but then you can at least have a date in there and do some cool kind of things with it. And again, maybe it doesn't matter to most collectors, but it just, when I got that, I'm like, okay, I have nothing that tells anybody what this is. And,
I don't. Yeah, the only thing you
unfortunate.
You can print a receipt from the thing, but who cares, right?
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing is, as you said, spoiled. I don't see it as spoiled in the sense that I do find, and I'm going to say this, I do find that the teams and the equipment staff and the front office who sell these things have a responsibility and accountability to them, in the sense that they are asking and receiving a good sum for the items, right?
Sure.
So, like, and I kind of was trying to say it earlier, a Sharpie costs $1, right? And it takes, if there's 30 jerseys, it takes somebody 20 minutes to pop each jersey and, put their initials, a set, the year and whatever, right? And then if you just do 30 of them, then there's a consistency to it. People can tell the difference, right? That way you've done something. To me, like, do something. I've said it 1,000 times. Like, I'm beating a dead horse with it. You're gonna already know what I'm saying. Go to Office Max and pardon my French, buy a fucking stamp that you can get custom made and stamp that shit inside there somewhere. It costs $40 to have one made. They'll do it in 24 hours, and you destroy the damn thing afterwards. But do something.
Or
right?
you do it where there's a box that says year, and then you can actually handwrite what the year is on that, or something. There are options out there.
Stamp it, hit the initial. That's what I'm saying. I mean, like, that costs nothing, and there's, to me, like, something like that. I mean, heck, if you don't want to do that, then on the fight strap, get a marker and have somebody just, do something to each one of the jerseys so that they're all matched, right? Like, don't just put a damn sticker on it and whatever. Like,
well, going to back to Arizona, how they would write that in behind the back of the thing, logo.
It became good enough. People knew what it was and they knew what to expect, right?
Yep.
So that was enough. It doesn't have to be fancy and pretty. It just has to be consistent. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And when you go back to these smaller teams, it's 2025. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think there's probably an equipment manager or a front office staff or anybody who hasn't done enough research to know how simply they could do something. So to act like they don't know that they should, to me, is not acceptable at this point.
Well, I'll go back to my favorite argument on this. It's not an equipment manager's job to document the jerseys for us.
No, it's
His
not.
job is to provide the equipment for the team to get on the ice and win games.
But the staff that supports that takes those out of the equipment staff and then puts them for sale, they have an accountability at that point to do something, is my point. I don't think the equipment staff should have to do anything. But I think
good. I want to be clear there.
No, I don't think the equipment staff should have to do anything. But if there is a support staff, or when those come out to be put on Dash or to be put on, wherever to be sold, I think there should be an accountability to do something to them to distinguish them.
But let's go as we're talking about set stamps or other stuff, that really only goes back to what, the early mid 90s when teams started. I know the Red Wings started, I think 91. Someone should correct me on this, but you go back in the 80s
I mean, you
most
can sort of, but you can go back. I mean, heck, I can go back to jerseys from the Blues in the '70s. There's some of them that had like that, that had the little, state on them, like 73. Some of them say or whatever. You can go back to baseball jerseys going way back, where they would custom tailor in the player's name and a year and stuff like that. So I agree that hockey probably didn't have a lot, but then they did have the manufacturers in the late '70s, early '80s. Gonzo. There's that. Okay, sorry.
I'm guessing that's Dallas.
I just got one yet. So I mean, but there you can go all the way back to I guess the mid '80s when the manufacturers started adding their little thing on the hem, right? Whether or not it was custom crafted, whether or not it was Gunzo's, whether or not it was whoever in Minnesota did it, whether or not it was Crosby's doing it in New York. So I mean, those were distinguishable marks from retail at some level, going all the way back then. But yeah, set stamps really didn't become a thing, I don't think, until, like you said, late '80s, early '90s.
I could be wrong on that, but that's
yeah.
what.
But I think again, that's 40 years ago, so 35 years ago. So at this point, to say that anybody working in that industry shouldn't have a knowledge of it, I think is there's no way that they can't hop on anything and figure out something that they should be doing.
And like I said, maybe it's just me being petty and whiny about it, but it adds an extra piece to it. It solidifies information, but at the end of the day, the teams, especially at the East Coast, the AHL level, are going to do what they need to do to sell the jerseys. And 9 times out of 10, we know, especially in the in-game auctions, that they're going to the diehard dedicated fans, season ticket holders, and I get all of that. Yeah. And they don't care because they got the player they like, they got the team they like, people they've been watching all year, and that's all that matters. And that's okay. But for us that are just used to being given more information, it would be nice if more teams realized that does make a difference.
No, to me, it's amazing that the Bison's jersey doesn't have 2 things. One, a sponsor patch that would be unique, and or secondarily an inaugural season patch. How they didn't do that at any level, to me, is like, what are you doing?
I was surprised, and maybe it's just because first year and they were not sure, or the companies in town weren't sure.
Doesn't have Rangers like logo on the shoulder or anything.
No, there is no. And I'll actually share my screen here. I've been talking about. I should have shared this a long time ago.
You just think that there should be something, right? Like, to me, I don't know.
There's the front of the jersey right there. There are no shoulder patches. There are no. What you see is what you get. There is nothing else on that anywhere.
That's a great looking jersey. But here's my next question, and you'll be able to tell this when you talk to them. Can you buy one of those AK jerseys? Can you buy that exact same jersey game weight in the team store?
I think they only have
a replicas.
I do not believe that at least to this point they had, and again, and I think AK was just because this team had just come into the league, didn't have the volume to be able, or the team didn't want to pay the extra to have authentics available. Probably wanted to see how they'd sell. And I know they did sell very well, the replicas, when they offered them out. But I mean, it is a sharp jersey, the AK material. It does have good wear for the number of games they played. And yeah, I do really love the logo with all the little bits and pieces of Illinois in there.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But so the sponsor patch thing kind of threw me, and again, didn't click with me until I picked it up yesterday.
Hey, listen, a dirty laundry patch on the shoulder of that thing. Like, let's all start chipping in. Let's spot.
See if we'll have to get some other sponsors together, see if we can cover that, and everybody will go, what the hell patch is that for? But no, that would look nice there right on the chest. And to talk a little bit, go ahead, Paul. Or somebody scored again.
Sorry.
Edmonton scored.
What's that?
Edmonton just scored.
So now 5-3 as of the listing of this.
Can't just get back in it.
Jeez.
Oh, Jesus. And Lindo kicked it in. Damn it.
Goldthorns are different for both teams.
So get into AHL, Paul, because you're the resident expert in AHL, because neither one of us, Paul or Waiter or myself, can get to a close AHL team. I mean, I know you've got Springfield stuff, and do they set stamp or no in Springfield?
They hand write on the fight strap, which I think is great. So they hand write on a lot of them.
Okay.
A lot of the regular season stuff will say like whatever, and there are some set stamps. I can get up again and show you a couple of the options on that. So they've done a really good job. A couple of years ago, it started out with them just handwriting it. Now they've started to add some information on them, which I think is great. The specialty jerseys typically don't have anything unless they make it to the AHL auction part, and then AHL auctions will add on the fight strap will sew on the.
Okay, yeah, seen those before.
So, but I think Springfield, I can say that I think they're doing a really good job. I like what they do.
I mean, that's at least helpful. Writing that, even though it's handwritten, it's still helpful.
It's great, and you get to know their system and whatever, so it's definitely helpful. Before we were with San Antonio, and those don't have anything in them to distinguish them. I helped distribute a bunch of those a couple years ago, so they didn't have anything. And then obviously before that, we were the Wolves, which the Wolves actually surprised me that they don't put anything in their jerseys. They're like, at least in the Blues era, there was no set stamps or set tags in those. And then before that, obviously Peoria, and Peoria was all over the board, as you know, with the Blues for a while. They had Levy tags in them, and then they had, they had all kinds of stuff going on.
So the expert opinion on the West Coast, Paul, what's Barracuda do?
Not much. They so they're in their 10th season. So we can talk a little bit about how to tell different seasons apart, but in season number 8 was the only year they had set stamps. The equipment manager added set stamps to those, and they were nice set stamps, helped identify it really well. They've done enough changes among the years between sponsor patches, the 5-year patch, this year the 10-year patch, changing the jersey designs and stuff, that you can tell most years apart. However, the first, what would have been 3 or so years with the same CCM jerseys, they're almost identical. So what I did when I got them at the equipment sale, they have the price tag in the neck.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually then print out the year and then put it over the price tag, or on the price tag there, with tape over it, so I could at least know which year it was. So if you see some used older Barracuda jerseys out on the market, that's one, that I've seen those come around and not be removed by other people. It's so I was able to distinguish those, also knowing the player, and just also knowing from when I bought them too, made it a little bit easier. The Barracuda do sell authentic jerseys in store. They've had them discounted at some of the equipment sales, so you can actually set it off to EPS for someone and get it almost near exactly what they have on the ice. So that's where wear and photo matches matter. The thing with them, most players only wearing one jersey a year, and also being recycled among players too. I have a number of Barracuda jerseys where you can see clear name bar changes, and some with number changes. Yeah. You can definitely tell from the wear, and repairs whether, you can tell it was worn compared to something just doctored up by someone else. Now, if they add fake wear, now we're talking a different story and all that. So no, and the Wolves, I don't think ever had set stamps besides the Maigret years. They changed the patches enough on them. You can usually figure out the year, and those always come with LOAs. the Barracuda jerseys do not come with LOAs. So it's
Now, is there any reason why they don't, or is it just not something that they care to mess with because they feel it doesn't matter?
I should rephrase myself. The regular season Barracuda jerseys do not come with LOAs. The specialty jerseys always come with an LOA.
Interesting.
Yes. So in those, I have to check. I think they reuse the same template each year. They have Tigris de Mars from 2 different years, and I think the LOA was the same on that. And I don't think there's a year on it, but I will need to double check.
And I'll start with you, Paul, first on this one. Is at the end of the day, do you think it really matters that much, or is it more of honestly, is it me just bitching about it because I made that discovery with mine yesterday?
No, it's just you bitching.
I figured that was the answer I figured I'd get from both of you.
No, I think it's a nice to have thing, but coming from a world where set stamps weren't the norm, it's I've accepted it, and it's I've talked about this, light but noticeable wear, which I kind of mean it's like light, you can barely tell the wear. Those, you don't want too many of those jerseys in your collection anyhow. I really want to be able to photo match it to where there's I should add this in for the AHL. And since Wade mentioned Flickr, every AHL team has a great Flickr account where they upload photos from every game. Great for photo matching, the highest resolution, download them without any issues. It's just a fantastic resource that the AHL teams have done. Now, for some of them go back 10, 15 years, others just the last few years, but just a great resource.
I guess I'll go back to it. I don't expect the teams. I don't expect it to be perfect, especially when you start talking about ECHL and stuff like that. But I get I guess for me it falls into the category of do something, right? It doesn't mean you have to put a set tag in. It doesn't mean you have to do whatever, but don't just be consistent and do something, right? We're at a far enough point in the hobby, and hobby knowledge is well enough spread with the internet that they should know to do something. That's where I'll leave it at for me.
Yeah, no, and then I don't disagree.
As you go up higher in the leagues, I think there's no excuse at the NHL level for the teams not to do something, right? I understand that timing is an issue, but in the same sense, I also think that there are easily accessible resources that teams can use to do something to not only protect themselves, but to protect the collectors as well.
I mean, and I think back even to the Springfield Junior Blues junior team here in town is late 90s into about mid 2000s. Every time I'd buy jerseys from them, it was a very basic certificate template, but they actually gave LOAs with those. The players wore one home and one white. And of course, they did special jerseys too, but it at least had the player name and what year it was on it. Yes, I understand it's just a piece of paper. There was no tagging on the jersey, but if you're good with hang on the documentation, at least you have that. And Paul, you mentioned too with nameplate changes and stuff. My God, the number of call ups and changes, especially, and I know it's heavy in the AHL. It seemed just as heavy tracking the Bison in the East Coast League is people constantly getting set up and sent down and moved around. So you're constantly changing that jersey. So hell, you could have 4 guys wear it by the time the season's over.
Yeah. That happens a lot in ECHL. The Bulls jerseys, a lot of them are like that.
I made a huge mistake. Whenever I was helping move all those Rampage jerseys years ago. I didn't do my research and had a Bennington game worn jersey that he wore and then got recycled to another player name that I sold for like a couple $100 to somebody. And then realized that afterwards what I did, so because Bennington was in Springfield or in San Antonio for a short time, that's like still one to this day that like right now I'm sitting here wanting to kick myself in the face. But because that stuff gets recycled and a lot of it gets recycled. And it kind of happens.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things. And if you're I mean, if you're any kind of minor league collector, let us know what your teams do or what your thoughts on this. We definitely want to continue to share it. And again, it may just be my whininess or pettiness or just I want consistency across all the levels, and I get it. Those teams are understaffed and overworked and all that, and I appreciate what they do to bring the jerseys and bring the games to us or whatever they do for those, because they're not making a lot of money working that stuff. But
I agree.
I do say thank you for that, but it's just, just one of those things that would be a very nice touch. And again, let us know what your team does, or if you've talked to your team about, hey, would you guys be interested or willing to do this? What their reaction or what their thoughts were on it. And if maybe you suggested it and they started doing that the next season, because that'll be a follow-up with me to the guys up in Bloomington is, hey, have you thought about this? And send them even some examples, and it probably will go nowhere, but you know what? I'll inject it. So any other thoughts on that before touch on just a couple other things?
I did great.
Yeah, I know the Barracuda front office want them to start adding set tags and stuff in, but it did not happen as far as I know this year.
Okay, but at least there's a discussion going on for it. That in itself is progress.
And I want to bring up a tangential thing that you mentioned about Dirty Laundry sponsoring the jerseys for.
I just lost everybody.
The owner.
Hey, Paul, you just cut out for a second. Everything after Dirty Laundry sponsor patch. Sorry.
Okay. Wow. Okay, so there was an old website, GameWorn.com, out of Rhode Island, and I'm trying to remember the guy who owned it. I can't recall his name, but he also designed jerseys and made some jerseys and stuff for some teams. One of them were the Tulsa Oilers. So I actually shared this in our Zoom chat. He has the GameWorn.com logo on the chest.
I remember those.
And in the set tag in the neck. I can show one if you want to share my. I don't know if I can quickly. When I get to, oops.
Let me.
Dude, there's zero reason we shouldn't do this.
Yeah. So this and I.
Yeah, you can share whenever you're ready.
I'm apologizing to. Can you see that now?
Yep.
Yeah, there is zero reason we're not doing this next year.
So this is a Halloween specialty jersey that I think like 2010 or something like that, 2011 for the Tulsa Oilers, ECH. I think they were ECHL at the time. I could be wrong. I'd have to double check that, but game patch.
And I love too that he tweaked the patch with a pumpkin head for the Halloween one. It's not the generic one, because I've seen the generic GameWorn.com patch too. I remember now that you mentioned, I remember seeing it.
And if I remember right, he did a couple years for the Oilers, and then also Cranston Reds or one of the non-professional club teams. He did the jerseys for too. So just food for thought. Maybe we can do a GoFundMe and raise the $200 that the Bison would need to let us sponsor him. Who knows? Yes.
I would be curious what they'd ask. It would be cool as hell to try and pull off. So if anybody wants to help throw money at that, or even the junior team here in Springfield, we could attempt it with them, because I know it'd be much cheaper there too. But see what we can figure out with that.
I think for a junior team, Dirty Laundry podcast would go better off than Drink Your Face Off. But
yes, very good point there.
No offense, Mr. Mitch, but
no, you haven't seen how much they drink at the junior games, but at least ours. So I'll get final thoughts for you before I share my very last thing. But any final thoughts from you first, Paul?
Still frustrated with the NHL playoffs. It's what would love to see a game. Well, 6. Prefer a game 7 in the semifinals, but AHL playoffs have been going great. 3 game 5s in the quarterfinals, which is great. So that was nice, and just out enjoying the California weather in the garden, and looking forward to either going to the draft or heading to the draft party here in San Jose. So.
And a side note, just before I go to you, Wade, we are, because I've had several people reach out and ask me, we are still trying to tweak the avatar piece to be able to get the photo upright. That seems to be a huge pain in the butt, and I don't understand why. But we promise we'll get there, because I had several people ask. I still can't upload mine. We are working on it. Those things will be trial and error, I think, for a little bit. But
I'll bump it up my queue, because I know Matt McGonigal figured out how to do his avatar, and a few others have. But I just haven't. There's other things I need to fix on it before.
Yeah,
but
those are low end, but all of those tweaks. And if you notice other things or other problems, put it either in there on the things where there is an area to post that, or message Paul or I or Wade, for that matter, any of the three of us, and we'll try and get it addressed as soon as we can. Final thoughts from you, Wade?
No, fun show. I like, I'm a big proponent of the set tag and team markings. So I enjoyed that. I think it's great when we have like kind of a more candid discussion like that. And again, just enjoying it, and I'm getting more and more excited about tomorrow and hanging out and taping another show and going to a summer sale. So I can't wait to report back.
Yeah, I can't wait to record some stuff tomorrow. I say we'll publish that over the weekend. So by Monday, you should have a second show to listen to. So you have a nice couple short shows, and we'll still do one next Thursday, do some more wrap up. One final, I want to say breaking news, but hobby news for you card collectors. Their Upper Deck is actually starting a new card release set. They're only releasing one card at a time because it's so collectible. And I actually, with inside stuff, I actually got the first card. Holy crap. I mean, it will actually blow your mind. For any of you that are listening on the audio, I'll make sure to put it in the groups and stuff where you can find it. But once this card grades, I think even if it grades at a 7 or 8, it's going to be very valuable. So Wade and Paul didn't even know I had this. I mean, this is how brand new and fresh this thing is, and holy cow, here it comes. That is the ultimate Upper Deck card. The Wade Hampton St. Louis Blues Upper Deck UD portrait.
Oh, that's great. That's so funny.
If you can guess who that came from, I think you have a pretty good idea.
Fantastic. And I'm dying. That's so funny. I can tell you that was actually at a Nova. And
I thought that may have been at one of the expos.
I checked into my hotel room and I had they had like the shower jackets. And somebody had texted me and said like, "Are you coming down to have dinner or whatever?" So of course I sent that privately to people, and now it is public. So.
Yes, the lovely Matt McGonigal, who is doing great with designing these cards. He'd sent it to me before last show, and we were actually recording. So he messaged me. He's like, "Are you going to post it yet?" I'm like, I said, we're covering some other stuff.
Yeah.
I want to save it for right before the St. Louis equipment sale. So yes, this will.
Are you coming down to dinner? And I think that was my reply. So if you've never been like in a conversation, like I think Doc and Paul, obviously, and most people who have ever texted or chatted with me will understand that I kid around all the time. Yes. And I don't mind doing stuff like this. So there is a good chance that if you ever text me that I will send you something like this. And if those get printed, I will sign them. In limited quantity, but only personal.
There also needs, I'll have to let Matt know, there needs to be a chase card with this where it's a piece of the robe in the card too.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of like Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop. I did steal
But I wanted to make sure I saved this right to the end. I promised Matt I would put it on the show, and as soon as he sent me to this, I lost it too, and I knew you would get a kick out of it. So
I had joked with Matt about getting this card, because Matt does cards, and cards he makes are phenomenal.
Oh yes, I mean this is great. I love it.
Yeah, it's awful. I can't. I keep looking at it, and I'm cringing. But like honestly, if you guys want to see more of that, my OnlyFans is open and it's free.
And you better believe that'll be the shot
the
when we upload all this stuff.
Want to see more? So but I had told Matt, and it's funny that he had said he had already made a card for me in conversation, but he didn't tell me what it was. Because I said, hey, it'd be really cool. I said, if you made some cards for the podcast and did, a couple cards of all of us. And that's one of the reasons I had asked you guys off the show a while back about, I thought we had taken a picture of the three of us together at the
I know we've got it. We just need to find it.
And I said, oh, that'd be
It's on
cool.
someone's
It'd be cool to do a card with a picture of the three of us, from there, and to do a fun little card thing to promote the show. So Matt, paybacks are coming, and that's pretty phenomenal. So thank you guys.
That was, I wanted to save that to the very end because I knew how much fun that was going to be. But again, thanks Matt for that. And
the fact that that's going to go up as the public photo for this show is both terrifying and flattering. So hopefully,
see how you rate with us, Wade.
Jesus, God bless you guys. I'm glad that we had some fun.
But with that wraps up another show. Please like, subscribe, share this with your friends, get it out there. Like I said, there will be a second show released sometime this weekend after the equipment sale tomorrow, just interviewing people and that kind of stuff. So kind of a double show weekend. But for Wade, Paul, and myself, Doc Noise, we'll see you guys back next week. Enjoy your weekend and apprise us of any equipment sales you hear coming up. We'll talk to you soon. That's